At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
The irrational thoughts come from me. The great ones come from my guest, which I have a great guest today. You're going to love her. You're going to learn a lot. So pay attention, take notes, because most people don't realize they can choose. They can choose. They're not trapped. Whether you're an entrepreneur, employee, doesn't matter. A lot of us say, oh, I've got this thing going in my life. Now I got to finish it. No, you don't. You can always choose to do something different or quit. And there's a whole strategy behind that we're going to cover in today's show. So without further ado, welcome my guest today, Cynthia Kay. How are you?
I'm the host. If you want, I'll host for you. I
could.
Background, I can do it.
You've got the skills, no question. Cynthia, I'm so excited about your book review coming out here for Should I Stay or Should I Go, which is the theme of the show today, which we're going to get to in a minute, and why it's so important for entrepreneurs, executives, anybody who's has decisions to make on their business and life. But before we do that, I want to hear more about you and your background, and how you got into this crazy book of business of being an author and that speaker.
Well, it's interesting because, Doug, I think I've reinvented myself like 2 or 3 times. So this stay or go thing, I'm really good at it. But I actually started out thinking I was going to be a broadcaster. I worked in broadcasting for 13 years, loved it, had great fun. And then, they decided I should go. So, but it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. They say you're no until somebody fires you. So I had the option. I could have stayed in broadcasting, or I could go somewhere else. And I decided that I really thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was raised in a very entrepreneurial family. My dad was a small business owner. So I started my own media communications business and ran that for almost 40 years. And then recently reinvented myself again. And I, as you said, I author books. I love writing. I have always adored it. And as a business owner, you want to pay it forward. You want to share with people things that you know. So I've actually written 3 books, and my 4th one is getting ready to come out. Should you stay or should you go? Yep. Navigating the emotional crossroads of business ownership. But really, it applies to everyone.
Yes, it does. It does. I can't wait to talk more about that. Before we do, I'm interested because I have my background was in behind the scenes and broadcasting, working at ABC and CBS for a while. You do on-air stuff, or what would you do when you were in that business?
Actually, so I did live television 5 days a week. I was an investigative reporter. I anchored a talk show and some feature reporting. So I did a lot of different things. And this is how we kind of first connected, was over that shared background of media. I worked for CBS and an ABC affiliate.
Yeah, right. Now, let people know, because I think it's kind of glamorous. When I got my job at CBS, I was paid $3.10 an hour to run the lighting for the ABC affiliate there for their live broadcasting and whatnot. But I don't know what was like. Were you in Michigan doing this?
I did. And honestly, the first job that I got, I knocked on so many doors I can't even tell you. And the last station I knocked on the door, and of course, no one will see you. I said to the lovely, sweet receptionist, I'm not leaving until someone comes out and actually takes the resume from me. And it was probably the best thing I ever did. But I will tell you, I couldn't afford the apartment that I moved into. My dad and mom actually helped me the first 6 months that I was working at the station because I couldn't afford it.
Yeah. When I got my degree from Northwestern in radio, TV, and film, my first full-time job was at CBS, I think, in Cleveland. And running the lights, turning the lights on and off for news. I got to light it for a variety show they did. But what was funny was one of the guests that came in one day was Robert Allen for the news, for the talk show. And after listening to him speak about real estate investing, no money down guy, I went up to him and said, hey, this this real estate thing sounds pretty good. How do I do that? And he said, well, just kind of my workshop this weekend, it was like $5,000 for 2 days. I'm like, I make $3.10. I put in 10 cents, $3.10 an hour here. And to his credit, he said, you know what? Go to the library and check out my book then.
Yeah.
So I did. And I think it was like a year or two later, I bought my first real estate investment and went from there and did really well in the real estate industry for a while because I was exposed to a luminary in that industry. So a little sidebar here in the industry that, it's not always an end result, but it certainly is a journey for us to.
You learn a
go
lot.
through that.
I mean, I will tell you, I credit my ability to tell stories and to be able to talk with people and uncover issues to all of that background that I had in broadcasting.
Right. Investigative journalist. What was the coolest thing or the craziest thing you investigated?
Oh, let's see, a modeling scheme. And I got sued for $22 million over that. We won. And then I did the thing I am most proud of was I did a piece on the adoption of children and how they were being adopted into families that were not caring for them. And it had I hope it had some real impact on changing some of how the system works. So it was fun. I loved every minute of it.
Right. That's great. Well, and then obviously you got into being the producer of your own company, media company, for 40 years. I didn't know you got
40 years.
You got started when you were 5 years old. Good for you. Okay, great. Very nice. Okay, so and then I did read your what was the book I read? The second one.
So the third one, Small Business, Big Success.
That one.
Yep, proven
Listen,
strategies.
Listen, this is coming from a guy who's unfortunately has to read all of his clients' books. Just joking, you guys. I love your books, but I'm pretty well read in the business nonfiction categories, and I don't pull punches. I'll tell people, oh my God, we need work. This needs help. Yours was a very easy, insightful, and useful read.
Oh, thank you.
That. It was very, very rare to have that because most entrepreneurs, to be fair, they're great at conveying their own story, but not necessarily teaching the value of it. Sometimes it sounds like a diary, and yours did not sound like a diary.
Well, and the thing that I think, and I'm really proud of that book because it won a number of awards. It won an American Book Force Finalist Award. But what I'm most proud about is that it's not just my story, that I interviewed business owners all over the country and got their take on the lessons that they have learned, because peer-to-peer learning for business owners is the absolute best way to learn.
Yep, absolutely. And folks, just in terms of a little more background on and Cynthia here, she's not talking about helping out Joe's flower shop. Some of her clients include like Siemens, same big companies. So she's very well rounded in the business structure. Now she loves the SMB market, but just so she also has some Fortune 1000 experience as well.
Yeah.
So,
and those big customers taught me a lot. When you work with global companies, you get to glean lots of really cool information, and then take that and really synthesize it and focus it towards the small business market.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to get to the theme now about the should I stay or should I go?
Yes.
When you told me that title, I guess it's just the song in my head all the time. So
should you go?
Should I stay or should I go now? Yeah, that's it's a great title for that reason, by the way. Anytime you can connect your book in any way to an icon in the ecosystem, culturally or business-wise, it works really, really well. I took a client to a bookstore once. We're looking at covers. I'm like, I need help on your cover. Go look at that shelf. And I've got a little piece of pad. I said, and look at the shelf for 3 seconds and turn around, and I'm going to make a prediction of what book stood out. Don't look at anyone. Look at skim the whole thing. He does it. Turn around. I wrote down the book that I knew would stand out. He goes, what book did stand out to you? And he told me. I said, it's this one. How'd you do that? And I'm a magician, but this is just psychology, because what they had done on that particular shelf, the one that stood out was Disney U.
Oh.
Disney University. And it was all written in collegiate font, which anybody that's been to college knows collegiate font. And Disney's on their, very protective of their brand. They didn't use Disney logo. That would have been good, but this was a collegiate font for Disney U. It was kind of interesting. So, sidebar. Anyway, I'm interested in finding out more about how people who often feel trapped. We'll focus on the entrepreneurs now about, geez, I've made this commitment. I got rid of my job. I'm starting this company now. I'm making some money, but not enough. Should I quit? Should I try something different? There's so many decisions we have to make in a day.
Yeah.
Tell us about your methodology and how you came up with the idea for this book title.
Well, I think the best ideas and the best books come from personal experience.
Yeah.
And so I will tell you, I started working on, I'm going to call it my list, a number of years ago. You get to a point where you've achieved success, you are comfortable, you love what you do, but the scales start tipping and you start to not be as excited about what you are doing. And so I literally started making some lists. What do I love about my job? What don't I love anymore? What would I do differently? And I started keeping a diary. And I would go back and I'd look at it. And, when you get to be a certain age, people start saying, so when are you going to retire? And I would get so annoyed with people.
It's even worse when our friends are doing it and I'm not ready yet, either intellectually or financially. I'm like, I'm not ready yet. Yeah.
Well, so honestly, I started keeping this list and then I started talking to people. And as time went on, I started to discover that there were some very clear signs for me that it was time for me to do something else. And when I first started keeping the list, all the signs pointed to staying. And then the scales started tipping a little bit. And so the book really is my journey. And it is how I left my media production company, sold the media production part of it, and reinvented what it is that I am doing today. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be happier. But in the midst of doing this, what I will tell you is I knew that just because I wanted to continue to work and do things, that wasn't what everyone wanted to do. So I went out on a mission. I started talking to organizations and I started finding business owners from all over the country. And so I've got a bunch of stories that in addition to my 7 signs you should stay and my 7 signs you should go, I have stories of people and how it is that they came to what they're doing. Several of them are never going to retire. They've flat out said, I'm never going to retire. Dr. Roger Dean Duncan, he is the author of a book called Change Friendly Leadership. He interviewed me for the last book I wrote, and I said to him, can we do a little turnaround as fair play? I interviewed him. The man says he's never going to retire, and I believe it. He's got a great podcast. He's an amazing guy. Why would he want to retire? And then there's other people. Couple of business owners that I know, I jokingly say they are sitting on a beach and eating bonbons, and they have retired. They're happy. They don't want to do anything else. And then there's people who are serial entrepreneurs who, they grow a business, but then it kind of loses its luster. They don't want to do that anymore. So they sell it, they go do something else. But to me, the saddest thing is when people don't understand they have a choice.
Yes.
You don't have to be stuck.
What's some of the biggest stuckable moments you've uncovered when you're talking to people in terms of are they stuck with like keeping the business or the actual product or service, or what's some of the biggest stucky moments?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, I think the passion. They lose passion. I refer to it kind of as, the movie Groundhog Day. They have a Groundhog Day moment where they keep feeling like they're doing the same thing over and over again, and it isn't bringing them joy anymore. And that's a really hard thing for business owners to admit. You started a business or you bought a business and you grew it, to admit that you don't want to do it anymore. Oh my gosh, that's just life-changing. But I think that's one of them. I have another one that I call it your to-do list is getting longer. And what that means is you start to procrastinate. Things that you used to love to do, innovation, new products, going out to see customers, all the things that, we all have things we don't love to do, but there were things you loved. and all of a sudden you're not doing them anymore, and it's a chore. So I think those are two of the big signs. One last one I'll give you, and I call this your thick skin is getting thinner. Things that never used to bother you all of a sudden are bothering you. Your employees, even your best ones, right, start to annoy you. Customers start to become a bother rather than a treasure. So those are some signs that you really need to pay attention.
Yeah. You know, one of the biggest things I see with entrepreneurs and founders is that they love to create, right? And they're great at starting, but not so great at finishing all the time. That's why, you know, the shiny object syndrome, I think, is coined after entrepreneurs, because we love shiny and new things. And when something is kind of mundane or over and over again, we get bored, I believe. So I think that goes hand in hand, if you would agree with that. That's
Oh,
the
absolutely.
first thing.
I think that's absolutely the case.
Yeah.
And when you start to do that, the impact on the organization is, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's right there. People see it. You may not see it, but your customers see it, your employees see it. They see you're not engaged.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No.
it's the start of the end, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
there are signs you should stay too. One of the reasons I think some people do stay, this is a valid reason, is they need the money.
Yeah. Sure.
Business is not worth what it was, or maybe they've still got kids in school, or they've got elderly parents they're taking care of, or maybe the value of the business has decreased. A lot of people over COVID, the value of the business. So they maybe need to stick around to, kind of build it back up again. I mean, that's a reason that someone should stay. Other reasons, people love what they do. They can't imagine doing something else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And some people aren't set up for retirement because their brains are so active in the business world. To shut that off is almost impossible. I talked to one friend who he had sold his company about 6 months prior because his I think I forgot the name of one of his kids or something. His wife's like, you work too much. It was really serious. All right, fine. So he did what he needed to do, like you, to get things ready to go, and then sold it and started making knives in his basement or garage. And he was making custom knives, right? That was his hobby. Okay, follow this. Now, 8 months later, he gets a contract for $2 million worth of knives. And he's like, he could not be an entrepreneur. Even though he tried to retire and be a hobbyist and hang with the kids, the brain, he was incapable of not building a company out of it.
And I'm kind of like that. I mean, I will be honest with you. It's so interesting because I may have sold that portion of my business, but 2 years before I sold my business, I had started another business. I had started my communications, my speaking, my training, all the things. I didn't skip a beat because if I did, I think I'd be depressed. I don't think I'm a person who can sit around and do nothing. Right. So you have to define your legacy, whatever that legacy is. And here's the thing, it's easier than ever right now for people to reinvent themselves, like your friend. I mean, something that was a hobby or an interest, people make them into a business. They can't help themselves.
I know. My wife loves making, Philippine food, right? She made lumpia. Well, she joined the incubator in DC, and we just got an order for a local franchise that could go national here within 6 months. So I'm like, okay, we'll keep going. It's fun.
Well, and some people would say that's an accident. I don't think that's an accident.
No.
That is not an accident that happened.
But you bring up a good point, though. If you're reading your book, should I stay or should I go? And you say, wow, I think I need to go. You took some time and you laid a lot of groundwork on the next thing. So you didn't have to jump into the pool of nothingness. You had a clear stepping stone because you were speaking and writing well before you sold your company. Did you do that intentionally to leave, or did you already just start to do it because you wanted to do it and then you decided to leave after the fact? When was that decision made to leave versus the preparation for it?
That's a really good question, and I don't know that there was a point in time, but I will tell you, for almost 20 years, I have been doing media training, presentation training for clients of the media company. So but I was the only person that did that on my staff. So it became easy when I looked at selling the business that I had carved out that piece that was mine that went with me.
Oh,
So that's how I did it. And just as time went on, I was doing more and more of it. But I mean, I actually laid the groundwork for it many, many years ago. But I do think that this idea of legacy is a really critical one because you do have to know what it is that you are going to. And that's why I talk about, remain relevant, stay working. Reinvent yourself, go off and do what I'm doing or what others are doing. Take a piece of what you've done and make that another business.
right.
Or retire gracefully. And a lot of people want to do that. But you have a choice, but you have to think about it. In fact, one of the people that I interviewed for the book, Kenneth Marks, has written a wonderful book about mergers and acquisitions. And he talks about the fact that he has a dear friend who will not take on a customer to sell a business unless they've done the work to figure out what are they going to do later. Because people get depressed, especially if your life was your business and you loved what you did. So I can't say that enough. And it can be anything. It can be a hobby. It can be, I direct my church choir. I have for years. Guess what? Now I've got a little more time to do some things I didn't have time to do before.
Yeah.
There you go.
Outstanding. So you mentioned the list before, running a list of what you like and what you don't like. What other tips or tricks could you offer people today to get them to think about, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah. Well, so here's what I've done. I've taken, for every sign that I have in the book, I have very specific questions that are related to that sign that people need to answer, right? So for example, your the list is getting longer. There's a simple question. How many times have you been late to work in the last 2 weeks? How many? So I'm asking very specific questions so that people can assess it. And then I've also created a couple of worksheets that people can copy out and go back and look at the signs and start to see, are you over the moon happy about what you're doing, or are you content, or are you annoyed? And when you start to look at things, I mean, that's what I did. I looked at that diary and I kept going, oh, wow, that's changed a lot. It's time for me to think about this. But it doesn't take that long, but it takes the discipline of sitting by yourself and actually thinking about, what do you really want? And, business owners were so busy and we don't take that time and, 10 minutes. Go give yourself 10 minutes. Look at this list of questions. Ask yourself, what do I still love? How often do I love doing it? Have I built a great team? I mean, there's a bunch of questions in there. And literally they're all questions I asked myself. So it's kind of, it's there. I know it works.
Right.
And I hope it works for other people because I see people who get miserable. And it impacts your personality. It impacts your life, your family.
Yeah, there's no wall between personal and professional life for entrepreneurs. Everything spills over back and forth. You can't, I mean, you can try to isolate some things, but not everything.
The thing that I think is important, and I want to be really careful about this. When I write about this, I'm not telling people how to go assemble a team and go find a broker. I'm talking about emotional readiness. I'm talking about, are you emotionally ready for what's coming next? And if not, how do you get there? Because for too long, we've kind of pushed those emotions aside. As business people were told, we got to put your emotions aside, check them at the door. You know what? That's not realistic. That's totally not realistic. We need to balance our emotions and our good decision making to get to that place where we're happy.
Yep. Should I stay or should I go now? So, as of this recording, we're going to say yes, available on Amazon.com or anything else you want. You want some Amazon or your website, or where do you want to get this book?
Amazon is probably the best place. Absolutely.
Yep. Should I Stay or Should I Go by Cynthia Kay. Get this book, folks, especially if you're tired, frustrated, confused, indifferent, whatever. It's going to give you some direction and clarity on your next chapter of life, or your current chapter for that matter. So, Cynthia, any parting words of wisdom for the people out there who are wondering, should they stay or should they go?
You know, I guess the one thing I would say is understand it's a process. And you can't just suddenly decide one day you're going to do this. It takes time and it takes patience. So I want people to really, think about it. And honestly, if they're not at that place yet, get my other book, Small Business, Big Success. You know why? Because that one talks about success at startup. We're always starting something up, operations growth, and stepping out. So it kind of tip your little toe in the water about success at stepping out. It'll kind of set the stage for the next one.
Love it. Love it. Great book. I love that one so much. I can't wait to read the Should I Stay or Should I Go? Although I'm going to stay around for at least a few more years, but it's good to have it for future reference.
You're going to reinvent yourself. You're going to be going to all those franchises with the Filipino food.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
You've already done it.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. Should I Stay or Should I Go by Cynthia Kay. Check it out on Amazon.com. The link is right below here. Get a copy and let me know how you like it. And thank you so much, Cynthia. Appreciate you being on the show today.
Oh, thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
You bet. All right. We'll see you later.